Thank you for coming. Before we get started, I just want to find out a little bit more about why you guys are here. So, does anybody shout out why this one as opposed to one of the other 10 sessions or whatever?
Personal development.
Personal development.
I think this is a constant challenge. But yeah, the very first thing, how you have defined the noun, that's the constant challenge, especially influencing the engineers. So.
Yes.
One.
What?
Plus
one. Anybody else?
Basically the same thing. It's all the responsibility of making sure it goes correctly, but no one wants to listen. How do you solve that?
Right.
Another your pain.
You good?
I've somehow lucked out to actually have a little bit of influence, but if I start a new role,
You might be able to do it better? Okay.
Inherently, I had to do this role directly or indirectly as a business analyst or co-owner, so I thought I'm curious to know more about it.
Okay. All right, good. I'd love to say that you're going to come out of here 45 minutes from now and you're going to go, oh, I'm good forever. I'm never going to. No. This is a process. What I'm going to do is talk through a little bit about, so that there are some concepts and then there are some tips and tricks which will get you there. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of sleight of hand. So think about this as doing a little magic, right? Juju, whatever you like to use. To make sure that people take you seriously. All right, and if any of you at the end of this still have questions, I'm happy to talk to you here or if we get kicked out outside. We'll see how far we can get. Okay, so who am I? I've done this for a long time. I've done product management on an international basis and basically started there. I started out in the UK when I finished my MBA, which was after I left engineering. And in engineering, I felt completely powerless, right? Like everybody told me what to do. It was horrible. And then I started being a product marketing person. And for a while, I was also at sea. And over time, I learned some skills, how to stand, how to look, how to do all these other things. And then I had to research how to do this for a class called People Skills for Product Managers. And then I really learned a lot. So I thought you guys should also benefit from the other stuff I learned. Just a quick comment. You can use this at work. Works just as well with little kids, to be honest, or your significant other. So we can do that. Some of what's in here is actually in that book. I actually put it in there, and Brian Lawley's point of view is also there, so you can have both. All right, so 280 Group, we told you we like to help product managers and product marketing, and this is the unsung hero of getting your job done, is pretty much where we are. There's another thing which we do, which is we have this free book. It's called The Phenomenal Product Manager. Whereas the Product Manager for Dummies is by and large hard skills with a bit of soft skills. This is basically how do you do time management? I'll put it up at the end too if you don't catch it. How do you do time management and how do you influence people? So, and it's free, so go for it, you know. All right, so product managers are known as the fourth most important position in corporate America. And the other three have people reporting to them, right? We're left on our own. We're like shark fodder, right? It feels like some days. All right, and we have all this stuff to do. We have all these different people to talk to, and they all speak different languages. Doesn't it feel like that? Like we're constantly, which hat am I putting on right now? People must think we're schizophrenic. We go talk to finance people. Hey, let's talk a bit of ROI, right? And then we'll go and talk to somebody else. It's a different thing. So we have a lot to do. And when we develop a process, so most of you hopefully have some kind of, this is how we get products out to market. Show of hands. Please tell me yes. If you didn't raise your hand and you have a problem with getting a process, we also have a free optimal product process book. So you can download that too on our website. So when you have a process, it tells you what needs to happen, but it doesn't tell you how you get agreement on it. And so that's really the focus. And like I said, we have a lot of people we need to get agreement with. Do we control their salaries? No. Nothing. All right, so we have to kind of make it. We have to earn that authority. And by the way, you can lose it. Anybody here ever lose authority with a group? It's hard, and it's hard to get it back. Right, so we need to play some games here. Now, when we're growing as product managers, we start out. This is no bullshit stuff, right? You have to deliver. If you say something's coming out, you have to deliver to that. You have to manage yourself. You have to manage your workload. There's no getting around any of that. Again, that's also why I like the other book. You also have to manage others, not managing them as a manager, but you have to organize the activities of other people. That's part of your role. As you gain experience, who's been doing this for 10 years or more, 5 years or more? 5 years, okay. After a while, don't you get a sense like you know how this is going to play out? You've seen this game before, right? And so we learn where we're going to go, and we learn what we want that future to look like. And that is the process of leadership. And very often when I talk to people who've gone through classes or whatever, and they said, yeah, the people come out and they become product leaders. That's what we want you to do. Think of yourself as leading your group somewhere. It's not quite Moses, you've got to skip the white robe and the staff, but seriously, that's where you're headed with this, okay? And you have to have a very clear vision of the goal. Where do you want people to go? That requires understanding how people operate. But people operate in two different ways. They operate, it's a nice Saturday, I'm sitting here, we're chill. The fire alarm goes off, the fire trucks are coming, we can see the flames. That engenders an entirely different response from a lot of people. People can go from being absolutely calm to being screaming memes in a heartbeat. And we don't know what happened. What happened is we ended up in their stress reflex. So that's why we're going to focus a little bit on understanding people, and then that will help us maybe cope better. Why do we get all these? We get people in state B, right? We get people in the crisis state. Because when we walk into someone's office, we're not saying, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee, although that may happen. We're often saying, you know that work that you've been doing for 6 weeks? We're going to throw that all out because, right? How happy are people to see us when you walk into their office? They don't want to see you. I have people die for cover, And so what we have to do is recognize that we're going to have to play some games here. Because we're generating stress, that's for sure. And it's not a fair game. The one of us, how many other people do you work with on your teams? 5, 10, 15? A lot of people. And they all have to come around to your point of view or you're not going to make progress. So this is a trick. So this is what happens. You walk in. I'm sorry, what's your name? Because you're
PJ.
What?
PJ.
PJ. I go, PJ, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to change everything that you've been working on for the last 6 months, right? Now, PJ could just sit there really quietly, right? In which case I'd go, oh, darn, he's done freeze, okay? Or he'd go, I can't believe you're doing this to me again, right? That's fight, okay? Or he would just go, I'm terrible, you hate me, right? There are all different reactions. And hopefully in your work environment, people aren't as obvious about it, but they are experiencing one of these 3 things. Now here's the good thing about people. We can adjust to change. However, we don't adjust quickly to change. What I want you to recognize is if you come in and you're going to tell somebody something bad, plan for this, because it's going to happen. Don't think that that's somebody's permanent situation, because pretty soon they're going to bounce back. They're going to be normal PJ, right? But not right now, okay? And when they say this stuff, you have to recognize that that's what it is. It's a stress reflex. Now, has any of this ever happened to you? Right. Okay. I used to work in Europe, and I'd get on the phone every night, and somebody change everything, and then I'd have to go in the morning, and there were people who were permanently thinking I changed my mind all the time, but it wasn't. I had phone calls. So remember that you have a choice as to how you do something, all right? So let's say something comes in. Of course, I get the one thing that doesn't work here. Let's say that something comes in that's going to, oh my goodness, it's going to cause a reaction. This is something that we all need to learn, which is we need to put a gap in here. We have a choice at this point. What are we going to do? Now, I have had people who showed up in a meeting and said something that, quite frankly, was not great. Okay, how about stupid? Yeah, okay. They said something pretty dumb, and my reaction was, I can't believe you just said that, right? Like, I would be like, ugh, right? And I go, oh, no, I shouldn't have done that. And then finally, I get to the other side, and I go, okay, I have a solution. I can figure something out, right? So understand that if during this time period where you're in stress, you have some choices, okay? So if you're the kind of person that goes, oh my God, I'm horrible, or whatever. These are some things that you can do. You could say, okay, I'm just gonna, no matter what happens, I'm just gonna ask a question. That will be my default mode. Someone comes in, you go, tell me more about that, PJ. Or you can think, maybe they're not stupid. Maybe they just have a point of view, and I'm just going to listen out. Hear them through. Anybody here use active listening? Okay, let me ask a better question. Anybody here doesn't know what the term active listening is? Okay. What I'm going to recommend, because I don't have time to do it here, go and learn how to do it. It's a little bit longer than I have time for. It is the #1 skill that you need to have as a product manager. And that is the art of listening for understanding and not listening as we normally do. How do we normally listen?
To respond.
You respond. We're going to tell you back what, all the things that you don't know, right? No, we just have to listen. And if we really listen to people, it's amazing how much they move from the stress situation down. At least they've been heard. Okay. The other one is a sense of safety. Anytime things change, some people's sense of being safe is really rocked. I have lived all over the world. I have gone through some things that people will find unimaginable, okay? I will tell you the snake story if you want to stay after. But at any one time, you can choose to say, no matter how bad it is, I'm going to decide that I'm safe. You're going to make yourself, you're going to kind of force yourself back into that calm state if you want to do it. So I don't know which one of these resonates with you, but I want you just to keep in mind that you have a choice, and that's probably the most important thing.
How do you do that if you're meeting with people on the meetings all the time and they want productive meetings where there's not a lot of time for discussion? So by, asking questions or, it's more, does that make sense?
I think what you're, okay, I'm gonna guess, okay? What I think you're saying is that you're in a meeting and people want to say stuff and they want your answer right away. Is that right? Or do they?
Yeah, or you want to try to understand. I mean, it's almost like always execution mode versus really then.
There's no space for contemplation.
Contemplation,
right?
Or to go deeper,
Right. I usually don't care what everybody else needs out of the meeting, but I know what I need out of the meeting. And if that means I slow the whole thing down, I slow the whole thing down. Here's what I know that maybe they don't know, which is if I really have good understanding then, we're going to solve a whole bunch of problems later. We're going to avoid meetings. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just have to be really transparent. You have to say, I realize this is taking time. We really need to get to the bottom of this. If I understand this properly, I'm sure that we're going to save time later. And that's it. So stand your ground. Okay? So given that we now know that people have these two different modes, how are we going to turn around and influence them? What tricks can we use to do that? Okay, first of all, whether you like it or not, you have to be really good at speaking and writing and presenting. Anybody here ever go into a meeting and somebody goes on and repeats the same thing 4 times? Okay, product managers do that. We all do it, and we do it because we love our products. If we ever have children and products, and I've done both, I've had small children and products at the same time, we love them equally. I know, don't tell my kids that. They're old enough to take it now. What I want you to do is write down 30 seconds, okay? Whenever you are going to talk about anything, I want you to focus on doing it in 30 seconds. And here's the format we're going to use. You want to try this one? Sure. Okay, try it. I want you to stand up and find a partner, and you're each going to get 30 seconds. I'll time you guys. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to have a topic. It's going to be a work topic. And you're going to make a statement. Okay? A couple of proof points.
Sorry.
Sure.
And then you're going to make a request. You're going to ask somebody to do something or kind of draw a conclusion, one or the other. It depends on what you're talking about. This is easier to do on a work situation, so I'm going to ask you to do the work situation. Okay, you ready? You got your partner? Do I have my phone? Does anybody have a phone I could just borrow? I think I've lost everything. No, got it. Okay, here you go.
Statement about what?
Just a statement like, we're going into this meeting and we're going to be talking about A, B, C, and D, and I'd like your support because I would like it to be X. Something like that. But I want you to do that in 30 seconds.
So we each take turns.
Yeah, you each get 30 seconds. Okay, hold on. I
Yeah,
gotta get this stopwatch up.
yeah, I'm going to.
Okay, ready? Go.
Okay. I want to go into a meeting to convince my executive management that we need some sort of machine learning insight to change work
Real-time processing.
We're working on it. We need to get some since you are the data science engineer, I would like to put in a company.
Okay, switch over.
Going to the meeting later today to feedback, and I really needed to basically nail her down on very specific
So the
processes
last
that
one we
she's
saw
been
the
working on.
stories.
So we're gonna go over the formulas for business purposes, the statements in which the users are gonna see, and then we're gonna go over basically what is visible to the user who needs statements. I need you to
Okay, stop. How did that go? Yeah? Okay, what? Okay, you can sit down just for a minute. Okay, well, we're gonna, now, next time you watch one of the executives, watch how they talk. I can pretty much guarantee that's how they talk. They talk in these very short little pieces. Right? Use it. Once you start using it, people give you the attributes of a leader because you're speaking like a leader. Powerful stuff, huh? Okay. If for some reason you don't feel comfortable doing presentations, you find your writing style stinks, or you think it does, I don't know if it does or not, go and there are courses online, there are resources like Hemingway and Grammarly that will help you analyze your own writing. They're even within Word, you can turn on a function. It's the spell check function, and at the end, it will tell you the grade level you're writing at. And the passive sentence. You have to turn it on. It's called like Flesh Kincaid. Grammarly does, but Flesh Kincaid is built into Word, and so you can do a quick run. I was reviewing a press release, because we play this game when I teach classes, and somebody had written something. It was grade 17. I had another class, it was grade 19. And you can turn that around and make it somewhere between grade 6 and 10, and people can read it. Don't go overboard with fancy words. Just say your piece, okay? All right. We're going to also think about when we start our discussion. So sometimes you go in, and you ever get that feeling like, oh my God, I've got to ask this guy something. He's going to say no, right? We're panicked about it. We're going to say no. Okay, what I want you to do is think about how to turn that into a positive conversation. All right, the fastest one I can do is my kids. My kids, they were teenagers, and I'd say, do you want to go have coffee? And they would say, what?
Yes.
No, they would say no. No, not gonna do it. All right, and so I got scared, and so I was really petrified of this. And finally I said, well, what's my real goal? My goal is to spend time with them. All right, so think about a positive goal. So you might think, he's going to turn my project down. He doesn't want to, or she doesn't want to agree to this feature. That might be something that you're afraid of. And what you might want to do is tell yourself something a little different, which is, I'm going to promote something. I'm going to promote the idea that we want to modify one feature. That would be it. In other words, try and come up with something positive. Here's the reason why we care about this. If we walk in and we're frightened, and what's worse is if you're both frightened of losing something, you get nowhere. The studies prove this, you get nowhere. If you both walk in and you're at least going to try and come to some agreement, you get a lot further. So if you can at least change your part of the conversation, you might be able to change theirs. One more thing, and I don't have it here, but I really want you to think about it, is in a company, sometimes we think of it as a win-loss situation. If I gain something, they lost something. It's a big pie. If I get a bigger piece, they get a smaller piece. Guess what? Within a company, that is very often not the situation. And if you're coming up against people who turn to you and say, if I give you something, I'm losing, what you need to say is, if we both give, we both gain even more. The pie gets bigger. But people within companies forget that. You're not a union trade negotiator, okay? It doesn't work like that. Even world trade gets bigger when everybody opens the gates a little bit. Yes? So this is the same way to think about it. All right. Now, everybody is a very complex set of values and styles and ways they like to communicate and things that they think are important. Okay. Let's see, what do I want to talk about? And they have different cultural vision and company visions and everything. So you need to analyze this because the person that you're talking to, remember you got to talk to all those people? All of those different stakeholders are all a little different. And if you're having a disagreement with them or you're having issues with them, part of it is you need to move towards them and understand where they're coming from. And maybe start using some of their language. Not your language, their language. And if you don't think this works, ask my boss. Because he keeps coming to me and I keep talking in his language, and as a result, I get my way more often than not. But I've learned to speak his language, not always my language. Does this feel funny to people? Does anybody feel like if I do this, I've given up something of myself? Yeah? I've given up who I am? Well, you have a choice. Sometimes you just have to move to being a different position. Okay. And you know, it all depends on our experience. So I've told you I've traveled all over the world. If I go and talk to South African people, I will come up with a South African accent. If I speak in French, I will turn into a French person. If I speak in Italian, my hands start moving, okay? I become another person. So it's something I've learned. This is important as a product manager that you have slightly different identities. You're not going to completely lose yourself, but you do need to learn how to do it. Yeah.
I mean, that identity change part is, I dealt with a lot of international folks,
Yes.
and I was one of myself.
Sure.
So there were times I had very ease with them. You can be original and little have global wisdom or some, I don't know how to describe in a word, and there's some sort of connection and trust.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you had a right feeling and respect, and I think
Yes.
that was very useful.
To have both. Right. So we're going to go into a couple of other things like that. We're going to try some of those in a minute. So everybody, by the way, has this hierarchy of needs, and we can all pull this apart, but I think it's somehow fundamental. If you're sitting there and it's 12:30 and you've kept the meeting over, nobody's had lunch, how good is that end of that meeting going to be? Right? People are hungry or they haven't had coffee, you know. So make sure that you take care of people and their other needs as well. The other one is being part of a team. It's your responsibility sometimes to create a virtual team. If they don't report to you, you might all decide you're wearing Hawaiian shirts on Friday. I don't know. Make something up, but create another team, one that you want everybody who's one of your stakeholders to belong to. What does that look like? Right? Because those are important things for people to do their best work. They do their best work when they're calm and relaxed and feel like they're making a difference. How can you influence that whole discussion? Okay, and we're all different, by the way. So this one, social styles, is interesting because, and I'm going to ask you, you can tell everybody, you can figure out who you are, okay? I think I'm over here. I'm emotional and I'm telling people what to do all the time, okay? Now, I think that I'm enthusiastic and dramatic and friendly, and other people think I'm a pain in the butt because I'm undisciplined and excitable. If someone isn't my type, they're going to perceive me differently. And if that's your situation, you're working with someone in a different quadrant who views you negatively, you also have the responsibility of turning to them and saying, PJ, I know that you think I'm all of these things, but guess what? When I go in front of these people, they really like what I do. And I go, oh, okay. They start seeing the benefits, but you might have to point it out to them. Anybody ever done this or had this experience? No? Okay. All right. Let's go on to influence. All right. I take a lot of this work from Robert Cialdini. He wrote this book, and it's been a long time, but it's still very, very important to realize. And it comes from a basic understanding of human beings. You'll notice that most of what we're doing comes from human understanding. Human beings have shortcuts. just like, you ever heard of the chicken who's born, right? And then it imprints on the nearest chicken, and that's its mom, right? Only there's a little kid who gets in the way, and all of a sudden this chicken's following the little kid, right? Human beings work like that too. Here are the 4 that we care about. He writes about a couple more, but here are the 4 that we care about. And I'm just gonna go right into the detail here. Reciprocity. I give you something, our natural reaction is to want to give something back, right? So what do we do all the time? We don't even realize it. We'll go, you know what, I'm gonna to Starbucks, you want something?
I'll take coffee, yeah.
Yeah, you take. Right. And then the next time, he'll want to give me something back, right? That's like an implied, not quite debt, but a relationship. We build whole societies on this basis. There's another thing that happens, though. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Nita.
Nita. Okay, Nita, sorry. Can you move over here just for a second? So the other thing that we can do is we can ask someone to do something for us, like I just asked Nero to move. It doesn't have to be much. It can be borrow a pencil. Okay, it can be, can you get me a cup of coffee? All right? All these things, these little interchanges build society, but they also build, in Nero's case, whether he realizes it or not, and I don't know how far I can really take this here, but you know, he's now agreed to move, so I'm not completely worthless, right? If someone had said, Cantal just says, I'm not moving, right? Then he basically said, I don't value you at all, and at least that tells you something in that relationship. But insofar as you can build up this reciprocity, the give and take within your team or within anybody who's important to you, that's really important. They're very small things. Boy, do they make a difference. Boy, do they make a difference. All right. So what I want you to do, let's see, get in your teams again. And I want you to look at the other person, and I want you to give them a piece of information that they might find useful. Figure out if there's something that you can give them. I'll tell you how this plays out in classes. I give people links to books or other things. So look at the other person, work out if there's a way that you can exchange something, both sides. And you only have you have a minute, so figure it out.
What you do is you take both hands out like this, and then you do your finger and your thumbs together. Okay? So right here, and you B stands for you. B stands for so that means your fingers on the right.
I think it helps to get and when you're
Okay, that's it. You got a minute. Okay, come back. You guys are so busy, right? Now you really get to be friends, don't you? All right. How do you feel? You continue it. Okay. How did it feel to have that kind of conversation? It's nice, right? You're giving some insight. You feel really good. By the way, giving is so much more powerful than receiving.
But we did have a comment where sometimes you can be the continual giver.
Right. Right.
And not we don't get the referee accounts, but the back.
Right. It does give you the basis, if you're giving, to turn to somebody and basically make a request too. So we can, remember it's both. So you can also make the request. The giving's a little easier to do in this context, but you should also go back to the office and ask someone to do something for you. Yeah. So for some of the women in the room, sometimes that's really hard for us to do too, is to say we're entitled to receive. I want to give you, yes,
I just wanted to say, I really liked your example. That was very simple of asking him to move.
yeah,
It was beautiful. I'm gonna do that.
yeah. And you know what?
When it works, when it works.
It worked. I had a boss who was a big sales guy, and he was also in the Navy SEALs, and we walked into a meeting room, and he made the guy move, and I thought, no, he's okay, he's gonna sit there, and he almost strangled me. It's like, no, I'm trying to do this for a reason. I didn't know, now I know,
It's
right, okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's so subtle, right? I want you to give you a number 5 to 1, okay? Remember I talked about you're giving stress to people? All right, if you have one negative encounter, you have to counteract it with 5 positive encounters. Okay? I walk in the office every morning. Hi, how are you? Encounter positive number 1. Do you want a cup of coffee? Like, how was your weekend? Oh man, I lay it on thick, right? I never want someone to think like all I'm doing is walking up and going, I have an emergency, please help me out. Right? So build on this. There was one poor guy in the office and he wore really neat shoes. I was like, man, I love your shoes, right? Find something. Work on the 5 to 1. Spend your life complimenting people. Because someday you're going to have to ask for something. And they won't realize it, that makes an important difference. Okay, social proof. We rely on watching what other people do. Many, many years ago, I was in junior high up the street, and I did a science experiment, and I had people taste some liquids. And the first people on the list, the first people to try it, never wanted to try anything. It's like, I don't know what this is. It was McDonald's milkshakes, just to give you an idea, okay? And I learned that I needed to get that first person down. Once I got the first person down, then everybody else would agree to take whatever liquids I stuck in front of them.
He's not
And,
dead, you know.
what?
He's not dead, so it's okay.
Yeah, he's not dead, right? And then I turned the page and I went back to the same problem. And I was like, okay, hey, but remember all these other people? Oh, okay, I'm back to drinking, right? So find out what social proof means for you. Now, product managers do this with data. We have data, and that gives us a level of social proof. For some of you, you're working in larger companies or in very organizations that don't like to change a lot. And so they're going to say, but we've always done it this way. So how is social proof? Social proof is being used against you. And sometimes we need to change stuff. We absolutely do. I do not know how many times I've changed processes or way we did things, and you have to understand that.
One
That's
of the
a natural
hardest
reaction.
things, though.
What?
Change is one of the hardest things.
Change is very difficult. People do not like change. And some people are more averse to it than others. Some people, oh, they find it like, it's like pulling teeth, every single thing. Like but on Tuesdays, we go to Chili's. So what you really need to do then, if you're going to counteract it, you need to say, I understand that we have done things this way. And then you're going to give them those 3 reasons, right? You're going to have that 30-second conversation. Yes, we've always done it this way. And the result is da, 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 da. And so I would like to propose that we change to X. Stop. Don't keep going on. The moment you stop, you have the power. Let them turn around and ask you the question, right? Okay. So that's what we're going to do in social proof. It works, actually. Pretty well. Now, the authority. Now, there's 2 people here. Do anybody go to work dressed like that? You do? Really?
I used to.
Where do you work?
I work in a financial company.
Oh, right. Okay. Makes
PC
perfect
work.
sense. Okay. Yeah, you would go to work like that, right? Most of us, I don't know, we all kind of look the part, right? I don't have you. What's your name? Hold on.
Kuntal.
Kuntal, stand up again. Okay, Kuntal, this is, most of the men go to work in something like this.
I don't go to work.
Alan, can you stand up?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking, he's wearing jeans, and this is the other version of it, but when you go to work, do you wear the suit coat or not?
Used to.
You used to, you don't anymore, right?
No.
By the way, this is the Silicon Valley uniform. Okay, anybody else have another uniform that they use? You can sit down, it's Another uniform that they use
I
at
see
work?
PJs a lot.
PJs? Okay, PJs stand up.
That's pretty common.
More the developer style, right? Okay.
Farmer developer.
Okay, very important point about former developers, okay? And by the way, this affects men and women. You used to be a developer, you used to dress like that. Now you come in, you still look like the developer. And now you're making other requests. And they look at you and they go, you look like a developer, why should I listen to you? So what do we do?
PJ, we're going shopping.
We're going shopping up the road, Nordstrom. One woman I work with was having just this problem, and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you have to dress up one more level, and women typically dress a little bit more.
Better.
Can I choose you? Sorry. Stand up.
No pun
Okay, a
intended.
little bit more. She's still in jeans, but it's a little bit more formal, right? So I had her dress I said, dress more like that, and I said, and wear heels. Why do women wear heels? They're very uncomfortable.
Taller.
We'll be a little taller.
To be more imposing.
Right. So I ran into her a couple months later. I was training near her office, and she said, oh, yeah. She goes, I keep those heels under my desk. And she goes, when I go to talk to the engineer, she doesn't wear them to work. No. She goes when she goes to talk to the developers.
But isn't she looking more girly? Like,
It's not a girly. We're not talking about 5-inch da-da-da-da. We're talking about, just a modest heel, right? Yeah.
I was wondering if it has the difference, like when I talk to the engineers, sometimes it also helps to dress like them so that they think that I know I have an engineering background. I was a former developer too.
Sure.
And that sometimes helps, but I can see both sides to it, so.
I think it really will depend on your situation. One of the things I do, and I mainly get it when I go and take my car in, is I'll tell everybody that I trained as an engineer. And I will usually make sure that people know that pretty quickly. And then it sort of seems to erase that issue. But in terms of a day in, day out, I want to look slightly more professional than them. Yeah? You can check. Okay. So look the part, right? And if you ask a question, just ask it openly. I don't know this, please help me. Right? So how many people here feel like if you ask for help, it's a weak thing to do? No? Okay. Asking for help is very powerful. People who feel very strong can ask others for help. Think about it. People who feel intimidated, they won't ask for help. So go ahead and ask for help. All right. Give credit to others. Very important. Okay, by the way, we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to keep going, and I'll see if I can come up with some other things later on here. I want you to go into work on Monday, and I want you to find something that PJ, or whoever your PJ is in your office, did really well and said, PJ, I really like the cover on your thing, or I really like that project you did. What's the deal about giving someone else a compliment? What?
Improves their self-worth.
It improves their self-worth. Who is entitled to give compliments?
Oh, somebody superior.
Leaders.
Leaders,
Yes.
yeah.
The fact that you compliment somebody else tells everybody where your role is. Compliment other people. It sounds so stupid, doesn't it? And we're all like sitting there, oh, we shouldn't do that. Yeah, do it, definitely. The other one is I want you to think about an area of safe space. There's a whole article, and it's quite a long one, and some of the research came out of Google about psychological
Project
safety.
Aristotle,
What?
I called them. Project Aristotle.
Project Aristotle, and it's so powerful. So go ahead and read about psychological safety. Teams where everyone has roughly the same amount of time that they speak have more coherence, they bring their best game. And if you have a team where someone's doing all the talking, someone's dominating, someone's ordering other people around, you have a defective team. I get this in workshops sometimes, and I will actually pull those people out and explain that the team can't operate correctly unless they stop talking. And no, I'm very kind about it. And we walk in, and I remember having one exec turn to me and said, day one was a nightmare, but day two was much better. It's like, yeah, I told the guys to keep their mouth shut. They were all history professors. All right. The other one is something happens. It's bad. And everybody's going like, okay, it's like Ice Age, right? Who's to blame, right? And you have to just turn around and say, I take full responsibility for, the failure of a product that was launched before I even got to the company. But yeah, let's get it off the table and move ahead. So you also get to take the blame. And, don't make a big deal of it. Just move on. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one on that one. But I like to just take the blame and say, yeah, I screwed up. I didn't realize that something's going to happen. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to move on. And that's the only way to do it. Anybody find that controversial? All right, we also talk about liking. And we kind of did this a couple minutes ago when you guys were helping each other out. So we can like each other by mirroring each other's body pose. For some reason, everybody here is doing this in their chairs. I don't know how you're doing that. You're all pretty much doing this kind of thing. People like others who were similar to them. Now, I told you I've lived all over the world. At one point, I was a farmer. My recommendation, don't become a farmer. But at one point I had to work in an area which was quite agricultural. So I'd go and I'd see these people and they had lambs and I'd pick up a lamb and we talk about farming. And then we talk about the business I wanted to talk about. So you can probably find something that's similar with just about anybody. So I want you to go back or maybe pick somebody else if you've already figured this out. Find something that you have in common with someone. Okay, that's it. I'm going to give you another minute. Okay, find at least one topic and then share it with us. Okay, come on, stand up. If you do, then you got it. Okay.
What is something which is common between us?
Every day. And so I think
When I was an engineer by training, yeah, I was an engineer. Somebody started that. When you
I have one that is one that has
See, I've always wondered a bit of the two because all the guys that I've dated are all engineers. Like some people go for that intelligent side for whatever reason, but I'm always
Okay. Come back together. How did that work? Did everybody? Were you on your own? Oh, okay. You managed. Okay. Anybody not find something in common with their partner? Like absolutely nothing. Yeah? So you all found something. You can talk to pretty much anybody, anywhere, and you can find something that you will like or be similar to them in some way, shape, or form. Use that. People will do more for you if they know that you are similar to them in any way, shape, or form. And really, it can be the most minor of things. Okay? Go ahead and sit down again. The other trick you can use is to, if you want someone to act some way, you can tell them, and I can't get your name. Munir. So I could say, Munir, I know we're going into this project. It's going to be really hard and long, and I know that you're just going to be fabulous at it. I told him what I want. I told him the kind of attitude I want him to have. Well, we're going to go through a lot of change, and I know that it's going to be tough for you, but I know that you're going to be able to come through this. Yes.
Doesn't matter how you position it. If you say, I know you'll be fabulous at doing da-da-da, or, I mean, you keep the compliment to the end, or?
Oh, no, I'm just saying that what you're doing is you're giving other people attributes that you want them to have. You're telling them that that's what you're going to expect from them.
It doesn't matter.
It does. It's not given as a compliment. It's giving them something to tell them how you want them to act. I went into a hotel once and they were going to charge me for Wi-Fi. They were going to charge me for Wi-Fi, and my natural reaction is to go, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? And I said, "No, can't do it that way." So I said, I know that you know how important the success of this project is for me, or this training, and I know that you're going to be able to find a great solution for me. And she went off and she worked really hard, and she gave me loads of deals and everything else. But I told her what I thought she would be able to do for me.
Free spa sessions.
I didn't quite get free, but I got a lot of reduction. Yeah, I got a lot out of her.
So you make it about them, not you.
Yeah, you make it about how great they are. Yeah.
How do you do that without manipulating people?
I said something that's a trick. I don't really like to use it most of the time, and I don't use it very frequently. But every once in a while,
red button,
you need it to be the right way, and so you're going to make it happen. Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
What if you're an introvert and it's so hard for you to say things like that?
Practice. I live with an introvert. I have loads of friends that are introverts. I go to church with a bunch of people who are introverts, believe it or not. It's agonizing for me. But anyway, and I find that even introverts can learn some of these things. They can pretend to be extroverts for long enough to get this out. Yeah? And you don't, okay, so here's the other thing. I'm using a lot of energy to do this. At the end of this, I will literally sit down and not want to talk to anybody for 10 minutes. Okay? You can do this at a different energy level, and that's still okay. Yeah? All right.
I was gonna say, I feel like this technique would work best if the thing that you're saying that I know you'll be able to do is something that's like a foundational goal that everyone can agree upon.
Yeah.
If it's something that's more controversial, then I think someone will be more likely to feel manipulated.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to make it kind of realistic, but you want to make sure that they know that you believe they're going to be successful at it. Think about it as the promotion and prevention focus. You're going to give them the promotion focus. You're giving them something that they can aspire to, as opposed to something they can be afraid of.
So it's more like, I know you'll be successful, as opposed to like, I know you won't complain about me.
Right.
Something
Something like that.
No.
Something like that.
On the opposite of hers,
Yeah.
what advice would you give for an extrovert working with introverts?
You know, I said we talked about having different personalities. You have to have a different style, and sometimes I have a style where I'm presenting and I'm very forward, like I think of it as being on my toes, and I have other times when I'm in listening mode and I'll think about it as being on my heels. So you have to reset internally before you walk in to make sure that you're not going to overwhelm people. Yeah. You don't have to hold it forever. They know you're a little bit more exuberant. You can make a joke about it if you like, but at times you have to have another style to go to, and you can practice with other people. Okay. I think we run out of time. Okay, go have lunch with people. Very important. People like doing things with other folks. Hold on, I got to get to leadership, and I got 2 seconds here. All right, leadership grid. There are concern for results and concern for people. I don't know where you are. You're going to have to figure out this. People who are successful, in general, are not people who everybody likes. I gave up being really liked when I became a product manager. I have given it up for many years. As a parent, I had to give it up too, right? However, if you get to that point of being a team leader, here's what I'm going to show you. Hold on. Have you all got your pictures? Okay. What I'm going to show you is that if you end up being a leader, then people will trust you. And trust is much more important than being liked. They will walk over hot coals for you because they know that you're going to lead them to a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's important. Okay. The other one I want to talk about is the fact that you want to start and you want to get to an outcome and stuff happens along the way. And people have a choice. You have an obstacle, something that gets in your way and it feels uncomfortable. How am I going to deal with this? We're going back to the stress thing a little bit. And you can either play so as you're not going to lose. Okay, it's all right. I'm not going to go there. It's too hard to get that feature in. And you back off. Right? And we have an expression for that in 280 Group. That means you become a product manager. You just do whatever you do. Hold off on the pictures. I got one coming. Okay. The other one is you can decide that you're going to live with that discomfort and you're going to move forward. So we talked about some things about dealing with stress, but I'm talking about living with some serious discomfort. You're just going to stand your ground and everybody's going to look at you. And I have had these moments in my life where everybody's looking at me like, what you going to do? And if you can live through that and say, I'm good enough and I have a really valid point, you're going to bring people over to your side by doing this. But it's hard, okay? And it means going through discomfort. So when you do that, stay. Accept that feeling. Know that it won't last forever. And then engage in it. Trust yourself. I once ended up in a situation there was nothing in MBA school. There is literally nothing in this world that will put you in that position. And I stood there and I said, what do I do? And I thought, I just need to focus on the people. And I thought, I'm it. I'm all this girl's got right now, and I'm doing it. And I did. She's still okay. So I'm just saying, you are always enough as long as you stay there and don't run away, because running away is not a solution. All right? And with that, thank you very much. I'm sure that now you have some things to let you go to be a leader. Download the book. And go ahead and register on this website to win something. These are pretty good prizes, actually. I spent the last year of my life 2 years of my life working on these products. All right. And lastly, we'd love to get your feedback. I love getting feedback on surveys. So anything you can do that would let me know how you thought this went would be really appreciated. And thank you very much for staying over time.